A big speech coming up this coming week about democratic socialism. I remember you gave a similar speech back in 2015. Do you think, though, now the country is more ready for a democratic socialist president like you than it was 4 years ago?
Well, I think the answer is yes, but I think it's important for the American people to understand what my definition is of democratic socialism. It's certainly not how Donald Trump defines it. I've spent my whole life fighting for democracy, fighting against authoritarianism, whether it was in the Soviet Union, Venezuela, or any place else. But what I believe when we talk about democratic socialism is, number one, we have to deal with the massive levels of income and wealth inequality in this country, where you have, and by the way, Donna, this is not something that we see on TV too often, but we do have to deal with it as a nation. Is it acceptable that 3 families in America now own more wealth than the bottom half of the American people? Is it acceptable that the top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 92%, or that 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%? If we are a real democracy, is it appropriate that you have a handful of billionaires who can spend hundreds of millions of dollars to elect U.S. senators, members of the Congress, governors, even presidents?
So I want to talk about
what we have to do. What I mean by democratic socialism is creating a government that works for everybody, not controlled either legislatively or politically by a handful of very wealthy people. That's number one. Number two, it means that in America we have certain economic rights that are human rights. Healthcare, to my mind, is not a privilege. It is a human right. That's what democratic socialism means to me. It means that if you work 40 hours a week in this country, you should not be living in poverty. It means we should not have 500,000 people tonight sleeping out on the street. It means that we do not have more people in jail than any other country on earth. So when I talk about democratic socialism, it means a vibrant democracy and an economy that works for all, not just the people.
So one of the issues that I would assume you consider part of that philosophy is your plan for tuition-free public college. Your 2020 opponent, Elizabeth Warren, unveiled her own college plan that she says goes further than yours because it also cancels up to $50,000 in student loan debt for tens of millions of Americans. So is she right, or would you also forgive any existing student loan debt?
Oh, no, of course, our plan forgives massive amounts of student debt. Elizabeth's plan is a good idea, and so is ours. But here is the story. Every place I go, I'm here in Iowa right now, and you ask people about student debt, they're paying $50,000. If you go to graduate school, medical school, it could be $300,000, $400,000. That is insane. We need to have the best educated workforce in the world. We used to 20 or 30 years ago. We no longer do.
Senator, I just want to be specific.
When you ask me about,
I want to be specific because Senator Warren is specific. She says that it cancels up to $50,000 in student debt.
Our plan will cancel a substantial amount of student debt, and in some ways probably go further than Senator Warren's.
More than $50,000?
But we have got to, I don't have the plan in my pocket right now, but what we have got to do is make sure that every person in this country, regardless of their income, can get a higher education. And I am very proud, by the way, that not only Senator Warren, but others have moved in that direction. And by the way, you're seeing cities and states move in that direction. 4 years ago, when I talked about that idea, it was considered to be pretty radical. But I'm delighted to see that all over this country there is the understanding that education, higher education, is a right for all workers, for all Americans. And by the way, when we talk about higher education, not just college, there are a lot of young people who are not academically inclined who need to get the trade skills they need to be carpenters and sheet metal workers.
Senator, I want to ask you about...
Our legislation does that as well.
Okay, Senator, you were in Arkansas this week at a Walmart leadership meeting where you called on the company to raise its entry-level pay from $11 an hour to $15 an hour. But they're already paying almost $4 above the federal minimum wage. And Congress, which you're a part of, is not doing anything to raise that. So why should Walmart raise its wages on its own when it's already paying more than is required by law?
Whoa. When you say Congress is not doing anything,
I'm not saying you're not supporting it, but go ahead.
Well, actually, it is my legislation that is, the dominant legislation in the Senate. So let's be clear. It's not Congress. It is Republican leadership. So I have asked Mitch McConnell who apparently supports the $7.25 federal minimum wage. Now, let me be clear. I think a $7.25 minimum wage right now is a starvation wage. It is a disgrace. Minimum wage has not been raised in 12 years. So I am pushing very hard to make sure that we have a $15 minimum wage so that if you work 40 hours in this country, you can live with a shred of dignity. That's not a lot of money. Now, I went to Walmart in Bentonville, Arkansas, to make this point, that the family that owns Walmart is the Walton family. As you may know, Nana, the Walton family is the wealthiest family in America. They are worth $175 billion. $175 billion. They should be able to pay their workers a living wage, at least $11 an hour. And now you have the absurd situation that because they have a starting minimum wage in Walmart of $11 an hour, you got many thousands of Walmart employees who are forced to go on Medicaid, food stamps, and public housing. And guess who pays for that? It is the taxpayers of America. And I don't think the ordinary taxpayer should have to subsidize the wealthiest family in this country. But it's not just Walmart. I'll be marching with McDonald's workers today. They need an increase in their minimum wage.
All right,
so
Senator,
the fight continues because, yeah.
We're going to look for that. We're out of time. No problem. We'll look for you doing that with McDonald's workers. Thank you so much for all of your time today. Appreciate it, Senator.
Thank you very much, Lana.